The great crystal halls of Zentara Prime buzzed with alien voices as representatives from 12 different worlds gathered for the most important meeting in years. The massive chamber stretched high above them, its walls made of pure energy that shifted colors with each spoken word. At the center of it all stood Kelrith, a towering creature with 4 arms and skin like polished metal. As the council leader, his word carried weight across the galaxy. "We are here to discuss the humans," Kelrith announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "These creatures from the small blue world called Earth have requested to join our galactic community." Laughter filled the air. Not the kind of laughter that comes from joy, but the cruel kind that mocks and belittles. The alien delegates had been waiting for this moment. For decades, they had watched the humans through their long-range sensors, studying their primitive ways and backward technology. Zixtal, the insect-like representative from the Kralix Empire, clicked his mandibles in amusement. His 6 eyes gleamed as he activated a holographic display showing Earth's military forces. "Look at these pathetic weapons," he buzzed. "They still use metal projectiles fired from crude tubes. My people abandoned such primitive tools 1,000 years ago." The display showed human tanks rolling across desert landscapes, soldiers carrying rifles and fighter jets screaming through Earth's atmosphere. To the advanced aliens, it looked like children playing with toys. "Their largest weapons are nothing more than controlled explosions," added Veltara, the energy-based representative from the Luminary Collective. Her form flickered like living starlight as she spoke. "We learned to harness pure plasma before. They even discovered fire. Why should such inferior beings join our ranks?" General Korath from the Draconian Empire slammed his scaled fist on the table. His red eyes burned with disdain. "The humans wage war constantly among themselves. They cannot even unite their own small world, yet they dare to ask for a place among the stars. It is an insult to everything we have built." While the aliens laughed and mocked far across the galaxy, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance. The ship was humanity's pride, their newest and most advanced warship. Morrison was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much war. He had fought in the brutal conflicts on Mars, where human colonists battled for resources in the Red Planet's harsh environment. Those battles had taught him that survival often meant doing the impossible. "Admiral, we're approaching the neutral zone," reported Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker from her station. She was Morrison's tactical officer, a sharp-minded woman who could read enemy patterns like others read books. Her fingers danced across her console as she monitored the ship's systems. "Thank you, Lisa," Morrison replied. He looked out at the stars through the main view screen. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were deciding humanity's fate. The weight of representing his entire species pressed down on his shoulders like a heavy coat. Chief Engineer Ryan Clark called from the engine room through the ship's communication system. "All systems running smooth, Admiral. The new reactor is performing better than expected." Clark was a genius with machines, able to make broken equipment work with nothing but spare parts and determination. If the ship had a heartbeat, he was the one who kept it strong. Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez turned from her station. "Sir, I'm picking up a lot of chatter on the alien frequencies. They're definitely talking about us, but the translation systems can't make sense of most of it." Morrison nodded. He had expected this. The aliens had been watching Earth for years, probably laughing at human attempts to reach the stars. But humans had something the aliens didn't understand. They had survived ice ages, world wars, and countless disasters. They adapted, they learned, and they never gave up. Back on Zentara Prime, the mockery continued. The aliens shared stories of human conflicts, pointing out every flaw and weakness they could find. They spoke of human wars as proof of their violent nature, not understanding that those same conflicts had forged humanity into something harder and more determined than any of them realized. "I have studied their military history," declared Ambassador Teclon from the Hegemony of Worlds. His tentacles writhed as he accessed his data files. They fight with crude tactics and primitive strategies. In their most recent global conflict, they dropped explosive devices from flying machines. Such methods would be useless against our advanced defenses. What the aliens didn't know was that someone had been listening to their discussions. War Commander Thrizak of the Vorthak extremist faction had been monitoring the council sessions through illegal surveillance networks. Unlike the other Vorthak, Thrizak believed that allowing humans into the galactic community would be the beginning of chaos. In his mind, primitive species needed to be kept in their place. Thrizak studied the data on the approaching human ship. The UES Defiance was laughably small compared to Vorthak warships. Its weapons were simple kinetic projectiles, nothing like the sophisticated plasma cannons his people used. Its armor was basic metal plating instead of energy shields. By every measure the aliens used, the human ship was inferior. Perfect, Thrizak whispered to himself in his private chamber aboard his flagship. When I destroy this pathetic vessel, the Council will see that humans are not worthy of joining us. They will remain on their little world where they belong. He began sending encrypted messages to his loyal followers. A plan was forming in his mind, one that would humiliate the humans and prove their weakness to the entire galaxy. It would appear to be a legitimate response to human aggression, but in reality, it would be a demonstration of superior alien power. Meanwhile, the UES Defiance continued its journey toward the neutral zone. Admiral Morrison gathered his senior staff in the briefing room. The walls were lined with monitors showing star charts and tactical displays. Unlike the grand chambers of alien ships, everything here was practical and efficient. We all know what this means, Morrison began, looking at each of his officers. We're not just representing our ship or our navy. We're representing every human who ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. Lisa Parker leaned forward. The intelligence reports suggest the aliens see us as primitives. They might try to test us in some way. Let them, Ryan Clark said from his seat. This ship might not look fancy, but every system on her has been tested in real combat. We know what works and what doesn't. Amy Rodriguez nodded in agreement. I've been studying their communication patterns. They're overconfident. They think they know everything about us, but they've only been watching from a distance. Morrison smiled for the first time in days. His crew understood what many humans did. Being underestimated could be an advantage. Throughout history, humans had won battles by doing things their enemies thought impossible. They survived by adapting faster than their opponents could react. As the meeting ended, Morrison returned to the bridge. Through the view screen, he could see their destination growing larger. Kepler Station hung in space like a massive crystal flower, its alien architecture beautiful and intimidating. This would be humanity's first real test among the stars. The aliens at the Council were still laughing, still mocking Earth's primitive technology and violent history. They had no idea that their own arrogance was about to become their greatest weakness. In a few short days, they would learn that there was more to strength than advanced weapons and superior technology. The UES Defiance moved steadily toward its appointment with destiny, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire world. Behind them, Earth continued its ancient dance around the sun, unaware that their children were about to change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The UES Defiance docked with Kepler Station 3 days later. The massive alien structure stretched for miles in every direction, its crystalline walls pulsing with strange energies. Admiral Morrison had seen many impressive sights during his military career, but nothing quite like this. The station was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Stay sharp, everyone, Morrison told his crew as they prepared for the first formal meeting. Remember, we're representing all of humanity today. Ambassador Helen Grant stepped forward, adjusting her diplomatic uniform. She was a seasoned negotiator who had handled the toughest trade disputes on Earth. Her aide, Captain Steve Martinez, carried a briefcase containing Earth's official documents and gifts for the alien representatives. Admiral, I've dealt with difficult people before, but never anything like this, Grant admitted quietly. These beings have technologies we can barely imagine. Morrison placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Helen, you've gotten mining companies and governments to agree when they wanted to kill each other. You can handle a few aliens who think they're better than us. The human delegation walked through the station's corridors, their footsteps echoing strangely in the alien architecture. Other species moved past them, some floating, others walking on multiple legs, and a few that seemed to be made of pure energy. None of them paid much attention to the humans, treating them like curious pets rather than equals. The first meeting took place in a grand chamber filled with representatives from different worlds. Admiral Morrison and Ambassador Grant sat at a small table while towering aliens surrounded them. The size difference was obvious and intentional. The aliens wanted the humans to feel small and unimportant. Kelreth, the council leader, spoke in his booming voice. "Welcome, humans, to Kepler Station. We are pleased that you have made this journey, though we must evaluate whether your species is ready for galactic citizenship." "Thank you for this opportunity," Ambassador Grant replied diplomatically. "Earth is eager to join the galactic community and contribute to peaceful cooperation among all species." The alien representatives exchanged what might have been amused looks. Zixtal, the insect-like Kralix delegate, clicked his mandibles. "Cooperation is indeed important. Perhaps you would like to see some examples of our advanced technologies." What followed was clearly meant to be a demonstration of alien superiority. The Kralix showed holographic displays of their bioorganic ships that could heal themselves when damaged. The vessels seemed to be alive, growing new sections to replace destroyed parts within minutes. "Our ships do not require repair facilities," Zixtal explained, his 6 eyes gleaming. "They repair themselves using biological processes that your primitive metallurgy could never match." The Luminary representative, Veltara, flickered brightly as she activated her own display. "Our weapons can phase through any solid matter," she said, her voice sounding like musical tones. "Physical armor, such as your crude metal plating, provides no protection against our plasma streams." General Korath, from the Draconian Empire, stood to his full height, his scales gleaming in the chamber's light. "Our defensive shields can deflect any energy weapon known to galactic science. Your projectile weapons would be useless against our barrier technology." Captain Martinez took careful notes while Ambassador Grant nodded politely. Both humans recognized the display for what it was, a show designed to make them feel inferior and dependent on alien goodwill. After the formal presentations, the aliens invited the human delegation to a welcoming dinner. The meal was served in a dining hall with tables arranged to accommodate different alien physiologies. The humans were seated at the smallest table, almost like children being allowed to eat with the adults. The food was another subtle insult. The aliens claimed they had prepared special dishes that humans could safely eat, but many of the items would have been toxic to human digestive systems. Only Ambassador Grant's careful training in alien biology prevented a diplomatic incident. "I apologize," said Ambassador Theclon from the Hegemony of Worlds, his tentacles writhing in what might have been embarrassment. "We are still learning about human dietary requirements. Perhaps your species would be more comfortable as a protected client state, rather than full members of the Council." The suggestion was delivered with false kindness, but the meaning was clear. The aliens saw humans as primitive beings who needed guidance and protection, not as equals capable of contributing to galactic civilization. During the dinner, Admiral Morrison noticed the aliens speaking among themselves in what they assumed were untranslatable languages. They discussed human limitations openly, believing their guests couldn't understand. What they didn't know was that Lieutenant Commander Parker had been monitoring all alien communications since their arrival. Parker worked quietly in the Defiance's intelligence center, her equipment analyzing every signal, every encrypted message, and every casual conversation the aliens thought was private. Her translation programs were more advanced than the aliens realized, and what she discovered made her blood run cold. "Admiral, you need to see this," Parker said through Morrison's private communicator. "I've been tracking alien communications and something big is being planned." Morrison excused himself from the dinner and returned to his ship. In the secure briefing room, Parker showed him the intercepted messages. The displays revealed coordinated planning between several alien fleets, all discussing something called a demonstration of human limitations. "They're planning to test us, sir," Parker explained, her voice tight with concern. "The messages suggest a staged military encounter designed to show our weaknesses without technically breaking diplomatic protocols." Chief Engineer Clark joined them, carrying his own report. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the alien technologies. They showed us today There's something interesting about their systems. Clark activated his own display, showing technical breakdowns of the alien weapons and defenses. Their technology is impressive, but it's also rigid. Everything is designed for specific scenarios. Their bioorganic ships can self-repair, but only if the damage follows certain patterns. Their phase weapons can penetrate solid matter, but they create predictable energy signatures. Morrison studied the data carefully. What are you saying, Ryan? I'm saying their technology has made them predictable, sir. They've become so dependent on their advanced systems that they've forgotten how to adapt when those systems don't work as expected. Communications Officer Rodriguez entered the briefing room with more disturbing news. Sir, I've detected unusual military movements in the surrounding space. Several alien fleets are taking positions around the neutral zone, claiming they're on routine patrol missions. Morrison looked at his officers, seeing his own thoughts reflected in their faces. The diplomatic mission was a setup. The aliens hadn't invited humans to Kepler Station to welcome them into the galactic community. They had brought them here to humiliate them, to prove that humanity wasn't worthy of joining the established powers. How much time do we have? Morrison asked. Parker checked her latest intercepts. Based on the message patterns, I'd say less than 24 hours. They're waiting for something, probably a signal to begin whatever they have planned. Morrison made his decision. Ryan, I want you to prepare the ship for combat operations. Don't make it obvious, but get everything ready. Lisa, keep monitoring their communications and try to figure out exactly what they're planning. Amy, establish emergency contact protocols with Earth Command. As his officers left to carry out their orders, Morrison remained in the briefing room, staring at the tactical displays. The aliens thought they were dealing with primitive humans who would panic or surrender when faced with superior technology. They had no idea that humans had spent centuries learning to fight against impossible odds. The next morning, Ambassador Grant reported back to Morrison about the previous evening's conversations. They're not even trying to hide their contempt anymore, Admiral. Several representatives suggested that Earth might be better served by accepting alien oversight of our military and industrial development. Morrison nodded grimly. Helen, I want you and your team to be ready to evacuate to the station on short notice. Things are about to get very dangerous. The trap was almost ready to spring, but the aliens had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated the species they were trying to intimidate. Humans had survived ice ages, world wars, and countless disasters by adapting faster than their enemies expected. Soon, the galaxy would learn that Earth's greatest strength wasn't advanced technology, but the human refusal to accept defeat. The alarm on Kepler Station began blaring at exactly 0800 hours. The sound was unlike anything humans had heard before, a low warbling that seemed to vibrate through the station's crystal walls. Admiral Morrison was having breakfast with his senior staff when Communications Officer Rodriguez burst into the dining area. Admiral, we have a problem, she said, her face pale. 12 Vorthak warships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're jamming all communications and demanding our immediate surrender. Morrison was on his feet instantly. Through the dining hall's transparent walls, he could see the alien ships positioned around Kepler Station like predators circling their prey. The Vorthak vessels were massive, each one 3 times the size of the Defiance, with hulls that gleamed like polished obsidian. Get Ambassador Grant and her team to the evacuation shuttles now, Morrison ordered. Lisa, Ryan, Amy, back to the ship immediately. As they ran through the station's corridors, Morrison could see alien representatives gathering in small groups, their expressions carefully neutral. They showed concern and surprise, but something about their reactions felt rehearsed, like actors performing a play they had practiced many times. War Commander Thrizak's voice boomed across all communication frequencies as the human crew reached their ship. His words were translated by the station's systems, carrying the weight of absolute authority. Humans of the vessel Defiance, you stand accused of attacking a peaceful Vorthak trading ship in neutral space. This is an act of war against the Vorthak Empire. You will surrender immediately and submit to galactic justice or face the consequences of your aggression. On the Defiance's bridge, Lieutenant Commander Parker quickly analyzed the tactical situation. Her displays showed the enemy ships arranged in a perfect formation, their weapons aimed directly at the human vessel. The Vorthak had clearly planned this encounter down to the smallest detail. "Admiral, their formation is textbook perfect," Parker reported. "They're positioned to deliver maximum firepower while protecting each other from counterattack. It's exactly what their military academies would teach." Chief Engineer Clark was already at his station, his hands flying over the controls as he prepared the ship's systems for combat. "All weapons are online, Admiral. Shields are at maximum power. But sir, we're outnumbered 12-1 and each of their ships outguns us by a significant margin." Morrison looked at his crew, seeing fear mixed with determination in their faces. These men and women had volunteered to represent humanity among the stars, knowing they might never return home. Now they faced impossible odds against an enemy that had clearly been waiting for this moment. "Amy, any word from the station?" Morrison asked. Rodriguez shook her head. "All external communications are being jammed. The Vorthak aren't letting anyone send messages outside the immediate area." Through the main view screen, Morrison could see the alien representatives gathering on Kepler Station's observation decks. They were positioning themselves to watch the coming battle, like spectators at some brutal entertainment. Their body language suggested they expected the fight to be brief and decisive. Thrizak's voice crackled over the communications again. "You have 5 minutes to surrender, humans. After that, we will demonstrate why primitive species should not venture into civilized space." Morrison activated the ship's internal communication system. "All hands, this is the Admiral. We are about to face combat against superior numbers and firepower. The enemy expects us to surrender or be quickly defeated. They see us as primitive and weak. They're about to learn they made a serious mistake." The crew throughout the ship responded with grim determination. In the engine room, Clark's team worked to maximize power output. In the weapons bays, human gunners loaded ammunition and checked targeting systems. In the medical bay, doctors prepared for casualties. Parker studied the enemy formation more carefully, looking for any weakness they could exploit. "Admiral, their ships are using standard Vorthak tactics. They've arranged themselves to create overlapping fields of fire, but they're also clustered together. If we could somehow get past their shields." "What about their weapons?" Morrison asked. "Plasma-based energy systems, just like the other species showed us yesterday. Very powerful, but they follow predictable patterns. The energy has to build up before firing, and there's a brief cooling period between shots." Clark's voice came through the ship's communication system. "Admiral, I've been thinking about what we learned yesterday. These aliens have been using the same technologies for centuries. Their systems are advanced, but they're also rigid. They don't adapt well to unexpected situations." Morrison began to see possibilities. Human military doctrine had always emphasized flexibility and adaptation. When facing superior forces, human commanders were trained to do the unexpected, to turn their enemy's strengths into weaknesses. "Ryan, can you give me more power to the engines?" Morrison asked. "Already working on it, sir. I'm rerouting power from non-essential systems. We'll have 30% more thrust available, but we'll lose some secondary systems." "Do it. Lisa, I want you to calculate intercept courses for each enemy ship, but not direct approaches. I want you to think like a human, not like an alien military computer." Parker's eyes lit up with understanding. "You want to use unpredictable flight patterns?" "Exactly. These aliens fight according to established rules and procedures. They expect logical, predictable responses. We're going to give them something they've never seen before." The 5-minute deadline passed. Thrizak's flagship sent out a final transmission. "Your time is up, humans. Prepare to learn your place in the galactic order." The Vorthak fleet opened fire simultaneously. 12 streams of superheated plasma streaked across space toward the Defiance. The alien observers on Kepler Station leaned forward, expecting to see the human ship destroyed in the first salvo. But Morrison had already given the order to move. The Defiance shot forward at maximum acceleration, not toward the enemy ships, but at an angle that used Kepler Station's gravity well to increase their speed. The plasma beams passed through empty space where the human ship had been moments before. "They missed," Rodriguez reported, her voice filled with amazement. They didn't miss, Morrison corrected. They hit exactly where their computers predicted we would be. But their computers don't understand human tactics. The Defiance curved around the station in a tight spiral, using the massive structure's gravity to build momentum. Parker fired their kinetic weapons at calculated angles, sending metal projectiles ricocheting off the station's surface toward enemy ships. The Vorthak commanders were confused. Their tactical computers had never encountered such erratic behavior. The human ship was moving in patterns that made no strategic sense, yet somehow avoiding their carefully coordinated attacks. "Sir, they're trying to adjust their formation," Parker reported. "But they're having trouble coordinating. Their ships are too used to fighting predictable enemies." Clark's modifications were working perfectly. The Defiance moved faster and more unpredictably than any ship the Vorthak had ever faced. Their plasma weapons, designed for precise long-range combat, couldn't track a target that refused to follow logical flight patterns. "Admiral, I'm detecting something interesting," Parker said, studying her sensor readings. "Their plasma weapons are creating electromagnetic interference. Every time they fire, their own sensors are briefly blinded." Morrison smiled grimly. "Then let's make sure they keep firing." The battle was just beginning, but already the aliens watching from Kepler Station were realizing that their assumptions about human capabilities might have been dangerously wrong. The primitive species they had expected to crush within minutes was not only surviving but fighting back with tactics none of them had ever imagined. War Commander Thrizak stared at his tactical displays in growing frustration. The human ship should have been destroyed by now, yet it continued to dance between his fleet's weapons like some impossible phantom. For the first time in his military career, he began to wonder if he had underestimated his enemy. The battle raged for 20 minutes before Lieutenant Commander Parker made the discovery that would change everything. She had been studying the enemy shield patterns when she noticed something the Vorthak themselves didn't seem to understand about their own technology. "Admiral, I found something," Parker called out over the noise of weapons fire and engine strain. "Their shields have a critical weakness." Morrison guided the Defiance through another impossible turn, narrowly avoiding a plasma barrage that would have vaporized any normal ship. "What kind of weakness?" "The shields are designed to deflect energy weapons by creating a resonance field," Parker explained quickly. "But when they're hit by rapid kinetic impacts, the resonance starts to break down. If we can hit the same shield generator with multiple projectiles in quick succession, we can create a cascade failure." Chief Engineer Clark's voice crackled through the communication system from the engine room. "Lisa's right, Admiral. I'm seeing the same thing on my sensors. Their shields flicker every time our projectiles hit them. A few more impacts in the right spot, and those shields will collapse completely." Morrison felt hope rising in his chest. "How close do we need to get?" "Very close, sir," Parker admitted. "Close enough that their point defense systems would normally shred us before we could fire." The Defiance shuddered as another plasma beam grazed their outer hull. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as damage reports came in from all sections of the ship. They had been lucky so far, but luck wouldn't hold forever against 12 enemy warships. "Admiral, we're taking heavy damage," Rodriguez reported. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Emergency teams are sealing them now, but we can't keep this up much longer." Morrison looked at his tactical display, seeing the Vorthak ships moving to tighten their formation. War Commander Thrizak was learning from the battle, adapting his strategy to counter human unpredictability. Soon, the aliens would box them in with overlapping fields of fire that even human creativity couldn't avoid. "Lisa, I need options," Morrison said. "How do we get close enough to exploit this shield weakness?" Parker worked frantically at her station, running calculations and battle simulations. "Sir, there is one possibility, but it's extremely dangerous. We could execute a ramming attack." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of damaged systems and the distant sounds of repair crews working. Every human spacer knew that ramming was considered suicide, a last desperate act when all other options were exhausted. "Explain," Morrison said quietly. "If we approach at maximum speed, their computers will calculate an intercept course and predict collision. They'll assume we're going to crash into them, so they'll try to destroy us before impact. But if we time it perfectly, We can pass through their shield envelope at the exact moment their shields collapse from our kinetic bombardment. Clark's voice came through the communication system. It could work, Admiral. I can give you a 30-second burst of maximum power, enough to accelerate past anything they've ever seen. But we'll only get one chance. Morrison studied the tactical display, weighing their options. The Defiance was outgunned and outnumbered, taking damage faster than they could repair it. Conventional tactics would only delay their inevitable defeat, but humans had never won by following conventional tactics. Which ship? Morrison asked. Parker highlighted one of the Vorthak vessels on the display. That one, sir. It's positioned slightly ahead of the others, and its shield generators are already showing stress fractures from our previous attacks. Morrison activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the Admiral. We're about to attempt something that's never been tried before. Hold on to something solid and prepare for maximum acceleration. He looked at his bridge crew, seeing fear mixed with determination in their faces. Lisa, give me a firing solution. Ryan, I need everything the engines can give us. Amy, record everything that happens. If we don't make it, at least Earth will know how we fought. The Defiance suddenly changed course, abandoning its evasive maneuvers to streak directly toward the targeted Vorthak ship. The alien vessel's captain immediately recognized the threat and began pouring fire into the approaching human ship. Shields failing, Rodriguez reported as the Defiance absorbed hit after hit. Hull temperature rising beyond safe limits. Hold course, Morrison ordered. Lisa, begin firing sequence. The Defiance's kinetic weapons opened up at maximum rate, sending a continuous stream of metal projectiles toward the enemy ship's shield generators. Parker had calculated the exact frequency needed to create resonance cascade failure, and her aim was perfect. The Vorthak ship's shields began to flicker and pulse as the kinetic impacts created interference patterns in their energy matrix. The alien crew fought desperately to compensate, but their technology had never been designed to handle this type of sustained assault. Their shields are destabilizing, Parker reported. 5 seconds to collapse. The distance between the ships closed rapidly. To the observers on Kepler Station, it looked like the human vessel was committing suicide, throwing itself against superior alien firepower in a final act of desperation. Shield collapse in 3, 2, 1 now, Parker shouted. That exact moment, Morrison ordered maximum reverse thrust while Clark activated the ship's experimental camouflage system. The Defiance didn't ram the enemy vessel. Instead, it passed through the collapsed shield envelope and fired its weapons at point-blank range into the unprotected alien hull. The Vorthak ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light that temporarily blinded the sensors of the remaining 11 vessels. In the confusion that followed, the Defiance seemed to vanish completely. Where did they go? War Commander Thrizak demanded from his flagship. His tactical officers scrambled to reacquire the human ship, but their sensors showed only empty space and debris from their destroyed companion. Clark's adaptive camouflage system worked by mimicking the background radiation patterns of space itself. To alien sensors accustomed to tracking ships by their energy signatures, the Defiance had simply disappeared. We're invisible, Rodriguez whispered in amazement. Morrison didn't waste the advantage. Lisa, target the nearest enemy ship. Ryan, can you give us silent running for another attack? Already on it, Admiral, Clark replied. As long as we don't use the main engines or fire weapons, they won't be able to detect us. The Defiance drifted silently through the battle zone like a ghost ship. The remaining Vorthak vessels spread out in a search pattern, their commanders unable to believe that a primitive human ship had somehow destroyed one of their most advanced warships and then vanished. Parker selected their next target, a slightly damaged Vorthak cruiser that had moved away from the main formation. Sir, if we hit this one from behind, we can disable their engines before they know we're there. The second attack was even more devastating than the first. The Defiance appeared out of nowhere, fired a full spread of kinetic rounds into the enemy ship's engine section, and disappeared again before the Vorthak could respond. The crippled alien vessel drifted helplessly, its crew trapped aboard a ship that could no longer maneuver. 2 down, 10 to go, Morrison said grimly, but he could see that the tide of battle was changing. The Vorthak formation was breaking apart as panic spread through their ranks. Ships that had been confident in their superiority were now afraid of shadows, firing at sensor ghosts and false contacts. The third attack targeted Threezak's flagship itself. The Defiance materialized directly above the command ship and sent a barrage of projectiles through its upper hull, destroying the communications array and damaging the bridge. Threezak himself was thrown from his command chair as his ship shuddered under the unexpected assault. By the time the fourth Vorthak ship exploded, the remaining alien vessels were in full retreat. But Morrison had anticipated this response. The Defiance had positioned itself between the enemy fleet and their escape route, its weapons trained on ships that no longer seemed so confident in their technological superiority. War Commander Threezak found himself surrounded, his fleet scattered and demoralized. The primitive humans had done the impossible, defeating superior alien technology through tactics that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. The silence that followed the battle was more shocking than the explosions that had come before. War Commander Threezak sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed the impossible truth. 4 of his ships were destroyed, 3 more were crippled and drifting, and the rest of his fleet was scattered across the battle zone like frightened children. The human ship, the vessel he had dismissed as primitive and weak, hung motionless in space directly in front of his flagship. Its weapons were aimed at his bridge, and Threezak knew that one more salvo would end his life and his career forever. Admiral Morrison's voice came across the communication channels, calm and professional, despite the incredible victory he had just achieved. War Commander Threezak, this is Admiral Morrison of the UES Defiance. Do you surrender? On Kepler Station, the alien representatives stood in stunned silence at the observation windows. What they had expected to be a brief demonstration of human weakness had turned into something that challenged their understanding of warfare itself. The primitive species they had mocked just hours before had defeated one of the galaxy's most feared military forces. Kelreth, the council leader, felt his forearms trembling as he watched the aftermath of the battle. The Vorthak Empire was known throughout the galaxy for its military might. Their ships were considered among the most advanced in known space, yet a single human vessel had destroyed or disabled more than half of Threezak's fleet, using tactics that seemed to defy all logic. "How is this possible?" whispered Zixtal, the Kralix representative. His 6 eyes were wide with disbelief as he stared at the human warship. "Their technology is primitive. Their weapons are crude metal projectiles. They should not have been able to defeat energy shields and plasma weapons." General Korath from the Draconian Empire said nothing, but his scaled face showed the first hints of respect for the species he had dismissed as inferior. The humans had done something that his own people, with all their advanced technology, had never accomplished. They had turned their enemy's strengths into weaknesses through pure tactical brilliance. Aboard the Defiance, Lieutenant Commander Parker was analyzing the battle data with amazement. "Admiral, we did it. We actually did it. The sensor logs show we destroyed 4 enemy ships and disabled 3 more without losing a single crew member." Chief Engineer Clark's voice came through the communication system, filled with exhaustion and pride. "All systems holding steady, Admiral. The camouflage system performed better than our best projections. The aliens never figured out how we were disappearing between attacks." Communications Officer Rodriguez looked up from her station. "Sir, I'm receiving surrender requests from 7 of the remaining Vorthak ships. War Commander Threezak is asking for terms." Morrison considered his options carefully. The human crew had won an impossible victory, but they were still deep in alien space, surrounded by species that might see them as a threat rather than potential allies. How he handled this moment could determine humanity's future among the young stars. "Open a channel to Threezak's flagship," Morrison ordered, "and make sure all the alien representatives on the station can hear this." The communication channel crackled to life. Morrison could see Threezak on the main screen, the proud Vorthak commander now humbled by defeat. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically to repair damaged systems. "War Commander Threezak," Morrison began, his voice carrying across space, to every listening ear. "You came here expecting to find weakness. You found strength instead. You came expecting easy victory. You found determined resistance. You came expecting primitive humans. You found something your people had forgotten. Threezak's voice was barely above a whisper. What have we forgotten, human? You've forgotten that survival is not about having the best technology, Morrison replied. It's about adapting faster than your enemies expect. It's about doing what others think is impossible. It's about never giving up, even when the odds are against you. Morrison paused, letting his words sink in. I accept your surrender, War Commander. Your remaining ships are free to return home with a message for your people. Humanity seeks peace, but we will defend ourselves against any who mistake our desire for peace as weakness. The alien representatives on Kepler Station listened to Morrison's words with growing understanding. This was not the voice of a primitive species begging for acceptance. This was the voice of equals demanding recognition. Ambassador Helen Grant, who had been evacuated to the station before the battle, stepped forward to address the alien delegates. The demonstration you witnessed today was not planned by Earth, she said clearly. We came here seeking peaceful cooperation. War Commander Threezak chose to attack us. Admiral Morrison chose to defend his ship and crew using human methods. Grant looked around the chamber at the various alien representatives. You have seen what happens when humanity is pushed to defend itself, but we would much rather show you what happens when humanity is welcomed as a friend and ally. The impact of her words was immediate. Several alien delegates began speaking quietly among themselves, their earlier mockery replaced by serious consideration of humanity's potential value as partners rather than subjects. Kelreth stepped forward, his metallic skin reflecting the chamber's shifting lights. Admiral Morrison, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for the unprovoked attack on your vessel. War Commander Threezak acted without Council authorization. Morrison's image appeared on the station's communication screens. Apology accepted, Council Leader Kelreth. But I want to be clear about something. This attack may not have been officially authorized, but the attitude behind it was. Your people have spent days treating us like primitive children who needed to be taught their place. The chamber fell silent. Morrison was right, and everyone knew it. The alien representatives had allowed their technological superiority to blind them to humanity's other qualities. We underestimated your species, Kelreth admitted. We saw your technology and assumed we understood your capabilities. We were wrong. Over the following hours, as the damaged Vorthak ships limped away from Kepler Station, the alien representatives began reassessing everything they thought they knew about humanity. Parker's tactical innovations became the subject of intense study, while Clark's engineering adaptations challenged long-held assumptions about ship design. The Kralix representative, Zixtal, approached Ambassador Grant with a proposition. Your people's ability to adapt existing technology in unexpected ways could be valuable to our bioorganic ship programs. We would like to discuss a technology exchange agreement. The luminary delegate, Veltara, flickered with what might have been excitement. Human kinetic weapons, while primitive in concept, achieved effects our energy-based systems cannot replicate. We are interested in joint research projects. Even General Korath from the Draconian Empire sought out human contact. Your Admiral Morrison fought with honor and skill. The Draconian Empire would be pleased to discuss mutual defense agreements with Earth. Within a week, the story of the Battle of Kepler Station had spread throughout known space. The species that had once mocked Earth's strength now competed for humanity's attention and alliance. Trade delegations, military advisors, and research partnerships were offered by civilizations that had previously considered humans unworthy of notice. Admiral Morrison returned to Earth as a hero, but more importantly, as the architect of humanity's new position in galactic society. The UES Defiance was honored with a permanent place in the Earth Defense Fleet, while its crew became legends throughout human space. Lieutenant Commander Parker received promotion to Admiral and took command of Earth's new Tactical Innovation Division. Her battle strategies became required study at military academies across human space. Chief Engineer Clark founded the Human-Alien Technology Exchange Program, helping both species learn from each other's approaches to engineering challenges. Ambassador. Grant became Earth's first galactic ambassador, overseeing humanity's integration into the interstellar community as equals rather than junior partners. The galaxy had learned that strength came in many forms. While alien species had focused on advancing their technology, humans had perfected the art of adaptation and innovation. In the vast universe filled with advanced civilizations, there was still room for a species that refused to accept the impossible as unchangeable. From their small blue world, humanity had reached for the stars and found their place among them, not as subjects or clients, but as equals who brought their own unique strengths to the galactic community.